The Rams got some great news. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Ramily, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Rams, your daily podcast covering your Los Angeles Rams. Free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're also available over on YouTube, so if you haven't yet, do us a huge favor. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and if you watch every single episode and you want to support this show, get a lot of people asking me how they can do that. Well, the best way to do it, hit the like button and drop a comment. Also, podcast listeners, you can write us a review. That'd be great. My name is Doug McCain. Friends call me DMAC. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. I've covered LA sports for over a decade. 24/7 Sports, Bleacher Report, SI, Dodgers Nation, the LA Sports Report. I also do NFL radio for Westwood One. Today I'm flying solo. The People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers, will be back from vacation tomorrow. We got a jam-packed show. The Rams get some big news. Also, how much better is the 2025 Rams roster compared to the 2024 Rams roster? How many upgrades are there? Are there any downgrades? We're going to get into that. But first, today's episode of Locked On Rams is brought to you by Gametime. So I love Gametime. Gametime is where I go to get my tickets. If I'm not going there as a member of the media, I do apply for credentials, the Rams, the Dodgers, all kinds of stuff. But sometimes you just want to go as a fan, man. And sometimes you want to go see other things too, like concerts and comedy shows, all that great stuff. Well, today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Okay, what is that great news that we talked about in the cold open? Well, that is that Sean McVay has confirmed that Matthew Stafford will start on Sunday against the Texans. And more good news, left tackle Alaric Jackson is also going to be starting on Sunday. So this is the news that we expected, but it's also news that we needed to hear, and we needed it to be confirmed. And both practice on Monday. Both are on track to play in the opener. We've talked about it ad nauseum. I mean, I know that you're sick and tired of talking about Matthew Stafford's back, and so am I. I know you're sick and tired of talking about Alaric Jackson's blood clot issue, and to be frank, I am as well. But the good news is the less we talk about it, that means the more it's a non-issue and the more that you can feel good about the health of both of those guys. But the reason why we talked about it so much this offseason is because the success of this team is 100% linked to, the health of Matthew Stafford and also Alaric Jackson. I mean, that's your starting left tackle. That's the guy that is going out there and protecting his blind side. So that was what we need to hear. That's music to our ears. And the big question now is, hey, can those guys stay healthy? And if they can, I think you feel really good about a double-digit win season. I think you feel really good about winning this division. I think you feel really good about possibly winning a Super Bowl. So, hey, that's what we need to hear, and that's what we heard. So, hey, that's great stuff. Now, more stuff that we want to talk about heading into week one. So you got the Texans. We're going to have full previews. We're going to have a lot to talk about. We're going to break down this game from every single angle. But I think you look at this team and you look at the roster, and I want to talk about that, the 2025 Rams versus the 2024 Rams, because the Rams roster last year, I mean, it was solid, right? It was a good roster. It was a roster that overcame a 1-4 start to make the playoffs, to win the division, to win a playoff game, to take the Super Bowl champs, the eventual Super Bowl champs, to the brink. I mean, they were absolutely terrified at the end of that game that the Rams were in a position to steal that one. And if the Rams win that game, I think they make it to another Super Bowl. We know, who knows what would happen. Maybe we're talking about defending a title, but still, let's look at this roster and let's compare it to last year because the roster is set. We've talked a lot about it. And let's talk about the 12 new players that are on the team. There's 12 new Rams in 2025 that weren't a part of the team and 20 players that weren't on the initial 53-man roster at the start of the 2024 season. So there are guys that did not start the year on the roster that are now on the team. So that's another thing to consider as well. But start with the quarterback spot, Matthew Stafford and Stetson Bennett. And then you get Jimmy Garoppolo and Stetson Bennett and Matthew Stafford. So now you look at a team that has three quarterbacks. Garoppolo did a nice job last year in the final week of the season. He was the insurance policy. Matthew Stafford stayed relatively healthy. And Garoppolo, let's be honest, you might have forgot about this. He was suspended for the first couple of games of the 2024 season. So that's why he wasn't on the first 53-man roster. But even after he came back, the Rams, they kept Stetson Bennett on the team for the rest of the year. So it's essentially the exact same group, right? It's the same group that ended last season, starts this season. Matthew Stafford, Jimmy Garoppolo, and Stetson Bennett. So is there an upgrade there? I think there is. And I think upgrade is that Stetson Bennett has performed. Stetson Bennett showed a lot of growth during the preseason, making layered throws, not making mistakes, going out there and really having a really impressive training camp and preseason. And I think you look at Stetson Bennett as a guy that, hey, he's someone that, who knows? I mean, I don't know about you, but I watched that Ohio State-Texas game extremely intently. I had Archie Manning under a microscope, and I wasn't impressed. And yes, that's a vaunted, very talented Ohio State team. You got Caleb Downs on that Ohio State team, the most talented defensive player in the country in my eyes. But the arm strength, wasn't impressed. The mobility, I mean, yes, it's there, wasn't impressed. I don't know. I mean, I think the Rams definitely need to consider a successor for Matthew Stafford at some point, and hopefully he's able to be QB1 for this team for a couple more seasons. But I don't know. I need to see a lot more from Arch Manning to think, oh, he's worth giving up the king's ransom for. He's worth selling the farm for, because who knows? I'm starting to think, you know what? Instead of thinking about college quarterbacks, maybe we just recreate history once again. And if Joe Burrow has a terrible year for the Bengals, which now I'm fully hoping for at this point, my goal for you guys and my agenda for you guys and my itinerary for you guys this season was to watch all the Rams games and watch the Texas team and see how Arch Manning performed. Now I think you got to add whoever's playing the Bengals this year and hoping that they have a bad year, because who knows? Maybe Joe Burrow is a guy they consider trading if they want to blow it up. And Joe Burrow in Los Angeles, that would feed families, right? That'd be electric. Get your popcorn ready. So, hey, I'm just throwing it out there for fun. It's a Labor Day show, right? I was out eating carne asada, with the fam, swimming. You know what I mean? Like, I couldn't stop thinking about Joe Burrow for some reason. That's just me. But we got Matthew Stafford for the moment, so we're feeling good about that. But I'm just throwing it out there. Now, let's go to the running back position. So 2025, you have Kyren Williams, Blake Corum, and then the new guy on the roster is Jarquez Hunter, who they picked up at Alabama, out of Auburn, of course, and of course Auburn is in Alabama. And Jarquez Hunter is a guy that he can bring a lot to this team. He can bring a lot to. They picked him up in the 4th round, pick number 117. He's got speed. He had an 18.9% explosive play rate. That was second in the 2025 draft class, only behind R.J. Harvey, who was a 2nd-round pick by the Broncos. So I'm very excited about Jarquez Hunter. You guys know I've been singing his praises. The Auburn Tiger that I think could really have an impact on this team. Give them a different explosive element, because you know what you're going to get with Kyren Williams. You're going to get a guy that's not going to break off Saquon Barkley-like runs, but is going to run in between the tackles, is going to make the smart plays. He knows how to run this gap duo scheme that the Rams like to run, nice, big, and physical. But could Hunter get more run than Blake Corum is going to be my question, because I do think they want to keep Kyren Williams as healthy and as fresh as possible because he's dealt with some injuries throughout his career. They just paid him, so they're going to want to get the most from him, right? They're not going to drive him like a rented car. They're going to drive him like a car that they bought, right? Or they at least, right? A guy that they want to make sure that he has tread on the tires for a deep playoff run. So do you see more Blake Corum because of that? Because Blake Corum can do some Kyren Williams-like things? Or is it a heavy dose of Kyren and it's more Jarquez Hunter because he can do things that are different than what Blake Corum can do, right? Kyron's going to hit you your singles and doubles, right? And Jarquez Hunter, he can possibly hit some triples and home runs. So I'm curious to see if that's the way they go. You look at the 2024 roster, and this running backs room looks almost the same because you had Kyren and Blake Corum. The difference is Blake Corum didn't really play much, definitely not as much as we expected him to play based on the fact they drafted him pretty high there in the third round. And then Ronnie Rivers on this team. So Ronnie Rivers has experience, but I think Jarquez Hunter has a lot more upside. So give me the 2025 running backs room versus the 2024 running backs room. And also you got a more experienced Blake Corum. I think Kyren Williams hopefully just maintains and stays the same really, really good to great Kyren Williams that we've seen in his career with the Rams since he's really taken over that position. But so far, you got an upgrade in the quarterback room and the running back room. So you got to feel good about that. But coming up next, we're going to continue to break down the 2025 Rams roster and compare with the 2024 roster. Who has the edge? That's coming up next on Locked On Rams. The NFL season is back, and honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by fans cheering on your team. But let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle. Between queues, login screens, and prices jumping at checkout, it's frustrating. That's why I use Gametime, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. Gametime is fast, easy, and backed by the Gametime guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. I pulled up Gametime, and in just a few taps, I saw amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite NFL games as low as $100. And look, if you're a Rams fan, you get the home opener, September 7th, Texans this week, Matthew Stafford and company making a run at another Super Bowl, and it's the best way to go if you don't have tickets to go to Gametime. The app is made super simple. I could even see the exact view from my seat before buying, and I love zone deals too. Zone deals are incredible. You pick the section, Gametime picks the seats, and then you save big. Honestly, it's faster, cheaper, and less stressful than any other way I bought tickets. Down the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON, NFL for $20 off. It's LOCKEDON, NFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket. Go download the Gametime app today. The NFL season is almost here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. And I love using FanDuel. It's my go-to. It has always been. And I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. If you like player props, you got that. If you want to build a same-game parlay, you can do that. Or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. There's just so many ways, and it makes every game more exciting. I mean, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup, FanDuel's the way to go. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. And we are off and running here on Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. I want to give a special shout out to those everyday listeners out there watching and listening to every single episode of Locked On Rams. Cannot thank you enough. You are what makes this show go. And we've seen a lot of new viewers, a lot of new listeners lately. And if you're new to the channel, new to the show, new to the pod, join the Everyday Listeners Club, because then you won't miss a thing about your Los Angeles Rams. And it's completely free. All you got to do is watch or listen to every single episode, and you'll be as informed as any Rams fan out there. And you can go on this journey of Rams football with us all throughout the season and root to another Lombardi trophy. But here in our second segment, we're going to pick it up where we left off on the roster. Who has the edge 2024-2025? Where are the upgrades? Who are the new players? So let's jump to the wide receiver room. And the 2024 wide receiver room, you had Puka Nacua coming off a historic rookie season, shattered the record for the most receiving yards, and Puka Nacua was incredible. I mean, he was great his rookie year, right? There were so many expectations because he was able to break that record. 105 catches, most receiving yards by a rookie, 1,486 yards. I mean, just incredible. He broke the previous record. It was 104 catches by Jalen Waddle, and the receiving yards he broke was Bill Groman. So those guys probably didn't know they were going to get a shout out on this show, but it was a great season. I mean, 1,486, 105 catches, stepped up on the scene. He was their fourth pick in the fifth round. He emerged as this star receiver, and then the follow-up for Puka Nacua was a little different just because he gets injured in his first game, and I think, too, he did not have a lot of help outside of him being really good himself, right? I mean, you have Tyler Higbee early on the season. Colby Parkinson wasn't great. And then you had the drop-off of Cooper Kupp. So you had Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, Demarcus Robinson, Tutu Atwell, Jordan Whittington, and Tyler Johnson. Puka Nacua emerging still. I still think it was a top 10 receiver as far as his rate stats when he was on the field. Cooper Kupp, though, was a shell of himself. I mean, let's just be honest. I mean, we've gone in depth on some of the numbers that tell you when it comes to his average depth of target, and he just did not look like himself at all. It was nothing close to the 2021 version of Cooper Kupp that had a Triple Crown that won Super Bowl MVP. But yeah, Demarcus Robinson, solid. Tutu Atwell made some plays when guys were out, but didn't really have a consistent season. Jordan Whittington, more on special teams. Tyler Johnson, okay, he had some moments, but nothing that was a very above average, right? Then 2025, you have Puka Nacua, who looks leaner and meaner than ever, continuing to grow mentally and physically, I think. And then Davante Adams is the wild card. What version of Davante Adams do you get? Because Davante Adams is a guy that just continues to have success, even when he's been playing with mediocre to bad quarterbacks. I mean, this is a guy who basically is a guarantee locked for an 1,000-yard season. So I still think if you get like the B version of Davante Adams, that's still a significant upgrade to what Cooper Kupp was last year. And I'm hoping to get the A version of Davante Adams, which would be a massive upgrade to what Cooper Kupp was last year. And I feel really good about it. Everything I've heard about Davante Adams is he looks as good this year as he did years ago, that he has not lost a step, that physically, mentally, getting in and out of his breaks, he still looks like that guy. And then when you consider that he doesn't have to be that guy because of what Puka Nacua is capable of, and Sean McVay, and Matthew Stafford, and a good running game, and I think a really good tight end room that's going to be kind of the surprise around the league from this Rams team, I think that he's going to thrive and he's going to flourish, and I expect a lot out of Tay, as I call him. Remember, his friends call him Tay, so I'm not calling Devonta. He's Tay to me. Then you got Tutu Atwell still on this team, Jordan Whittington still on this team. The guys that are new to the 53-man to open up the season that weren't on the 2024 squad to open up the year are Xavier Smith and Kanata Mumfield. Both those guys, look, the truth is you're not going to see those guys unless guys get injured, but Xavier Smith can have an impact on special teams, and Kanata Mumfield, if guys get injured, I still think they like him in this organization for the foreseeable future based on his upside. But yeah, I think the number one wild card for the number one X factor, I think the wild card is Davante Adams just being that guy, but the X factor is Tutu Atwell. Because the difference between last year's Tutu and this year's Tutu was last year's Tutu was on the final year of his deal. They it looked like they were going to bring him back, and then they bring him back for $10 million, and Sean McVay says, hey, it's my fault that he didn't get more big plays and big numbers and have big moments. So I think there's going to be more of a concerted effort to get involved, and if he can do what we think that he can, I think he's going to make this a much more dynamic receivers room, and I think this is the easy upgrade. Like, this is a massive, easy upgrade. 2025 receivers are significantly better than the 2024 receivers. I don't think there's any doubt about that. A wiser, older, more experienced version of Puka Nacua that hopefully won't be injured early on. And the rest of the guys fall in line with the headliner being Devontae Adams. All right, coming up next, we're talking about the offensive line, the tight ends. We might have to jump to defense tomorrow's show, but hey, going player by player, spot by spot, you're probably feeling even better about this Rams team's chances. And we got the great news today from Sean McVay that Matthew Stafford and Alaric Jackson are going to be ready to roll this Sunday at SoFi. More Locked On Rams coming up next. This episode of Locked On Rams presented by Yahoo Fantasy. The NFL season is around the corner, and you can feel the buzz. Fantasy football season is here. Everyone's researching, drafting, and building their championship squads. If you haven't joined a league yet, now's the time. And it's all happening on Yahoo Fantasy. This year, I'm playing fantasy football on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too, whether you're a first-timer or a veteran creating your millionth league. Yahoo Fantasy is loaded with fun ways to compete and brand new features that make the game even better. With the season kicking off on September 4th, now is the time to start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football, which offers so many fun ways to compete. Want more ways to play? Try the new Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine League mode, where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated weekly until one team is left standing. I'm playing this one with my man Travis, and I do not want to get bounced in week one. This feels like the fantasy football version of Squid Game, but it's going to be a lot of fun. Want to play instantly with friends? Try the new Draft with Friends mode. Prefer the classics? Get your crew together and go head-to-head in a private league. No crew, no problem. Join a public league. That's the easiest way to play. The NFL season kicks off on September 4th, so don't wait. Start your league now. Draft now at yahoofantasy.com/lockedonnfl. That's yahoofantasy.com/lockedonnfl. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. Do you have subscriptions that you might have forgot to pay for? Do you have too many subscriptions or so many streaming services? All kinds of stuff. I mean, it adds up and you forget about them. And I linked all my accounts to Monarch Money, and immediately I spotted a couple subscriptions that I wasn't even using. So I'm like, okay, I don't need it anymore. Bye. So you can cancel those alone. That saved me money every single month. Another thing that really helps with is budgeting. If you have independent kind of goals, saving for a house in LA, hey, houses are very expensive. You have to get a plan together if you want to get one of these bad boys, right? So Monarch makes it simple to review my finances with my partner. We can both see budgets, goals, and spending activity in one place. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com in your browser or for half off your first year. So go to monarchmoney.com, put it in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNFL. And welcome back to Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Okay, let's jump to the tight ends room. 2024, you only had 3 tight ends to start the year. You had Colby Parkinson, who you had signed to a $22.5 million deal. Davis Allen showed some promise. catch radius, physical guy, but the ceiling isn't quite there. Then Hunter Long, another guy that he was the dude that the Rams got in the Jalen Ramsey trade, but never really showed that, hey, he was going to be something that was going to have an impact for this team. It just wasn't quite there. This year, 2025, you had Tyler Higbee. Is it the last dance for Tyler Higbee with the Rams? Looks like it could be. Colby Parkinson's back. I think there is a little bit of sunk cost fallacy with him, right? You know what the sunk cost fallacy, right? It's like, hey, I went to this movie. I want to, even though I don't like this movie, even though this movie hasn't been as good as I hoped it would be, I want to just watch this whole movie because I paid for it, and I'm just going to just ride this thing out. Hopefully it gets better, right? Hopefully Colby Parkinson can find some more success with the Rams this year. Then Davis Allen is back. I think they like him just as a depth piece, as a guy that's a sure-handed, move-the-chains type of tight end. But the big X factor is Terrence Ferguson. And everything I hear about Terrence Ferguson is that this Rams organization is extremely excited internally with him. It feels like Terrence Ferguson is that new toy that Sean McVay has wanted for a long time. It feels like he's that Nintendo 64. And if you remember that meme where the kid unwraps a Nintendo 64 and he's like, Nintendo 64, yeah. I think that's Sean McVay with Terrence Ferguson because he's wanted a flex tight end, a tight end that could stretch, that you could use vertically. And in his limited game action a couple weeks ago on that nice slot fade, the body control, the adjustment, that throw there, it was something we haven't seen a Rams tight end do, right, in a long, long time. So to have someone like Terrence Ferguson, to be able to have some 12 personnel, to mix some things up, I think that McVay is in a state of, okay, I've been in this league long enough where at some point I'm going to adjust before the league just completely adjusts to me, right? It's time for me to zig while the rest of the league is copying me and zagging, right? So I think one of the ways he wants to do that is by diversifying this offense with a tight end that can be almost like a hybrid type of tight end. Yes, he could be a better blocker, but the reason why the Rams took him with their top pick, they took him with the 46th overall pick. They took him in the second round, which was their highest pick because they traded out of the first round when they made the move with the Falcons to get that extra first-round pick for next year. Well, they said, and I know a lot of teams say this, but they said, hey, we would have taken Terrence Ferguson at 26. That's how high they were on him. So if they would have taken him at 26, you don't take a guy at 26 as your first pick and not play him. So think about that. They're going to play him. It's only a matter of time. And when they do, if he has success early on, then he's going to get more opportunities. And that's going to be huge. Like, it really is. Like, just read the tea leaves. Just look at what the Rams have done, right? They've said, okay, we wanted Brock Bowers. We were interested in Dalton Kincaid. We were interested in Sam Laporta. We have wanted a playmaking tight end for years now, and we think we have one. So they're not going to get this guy and not play him, right? Especially when you want to take advantage of what's left of Matthew Stafford, right? So, I mean, Terrence Ferguson almost feels a little bit like Andy from Toy Story and Tyler Higbee's Andy from Toy Story, and we got Buzz Lightyear in Terrence Ferguson, right? He's the new toy, and I think that Sean McVay is going to have a lot of fun with him this year. So think about this. Tight end, an easy upgrade too. So I don't think there's anyone that could make the case that any of the position groups I've talked about aren't upgrades this year from the 2025 roster to the 2024 roster. I think the only case you could make is the question mark about Matthew Stafford's back. And even there were times last year where there was some inconsistent play, right? And I think that had a lot to do with not having a dynamic tight end, not having a second receiver. So I think that he's going to be better this year than last year if his back stays healthy. So I'm pumped. I'm excited about the 2025 Rams, and we're going to continue to break down the roster tomorrow. But get ready. It's here. The most wonderful time of the year. Football season is back. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. Until next time, whose house? It's Locked On Rams House.